and I am with my good friend Marian Edvardson here today. This is going to be one of our very first live streams where we're going to be talking about how we can step into happy by becoming unlocked. Hi, Marian. How you doing today?
Hi, Cheryl. I'm great. Great to be doing this with you.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to this. It's going to be a lot of fun. So, for those of you that are joining us for the first time, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be taking some topics, basically talking about personal development from the sense of awakening spiritually. And we're going to be using some of our own experiences to share our journey with you so you know that you're not alone on yours. So, Mary, you want to say anything before we get going?
Just that I'm excited to be doing this. We have been on parallel paths for a long time, like 10 years. And it's time to get that message out that we are here to serve and we are here to just raise the level of happy or helping people to get unlocked, as you say, so that you are truly living your best life, feeling more fulfilled, more passionate, and even more abundant.
And if we can accomplish that for some people besides just for ourselves, it will be well worth our time spent together. Um, So, the way that we're thinking of approaching this is that we're going to do what we're going to call Manifestation Mondays. And we're going to have these conversations that are going to run about 30 minutes long. And we're going to talk based on the different levels of consciousness. So, a lot of times, what happens is that people are so caught up in their own thoughts and everything that they're just kind of going through life and not realizing that they really do have control over their circumstances. So, in this particular session, for lack of a better word, we're going to talk about the different levels of consciousness and really on how you could work through them. And I don't know if I'm explaining that correctly. So, Marian, you want to jump in and give your idea of explaining what we're going to be trying to do together?
Well, we've talked about a sequence that you've mentioned to me, which is 4 levels or 4 stages of spiritual awakening. And as we talk about those 4 stages, each time we're able to break through any limiting beliefs that we might be uncovering. Um, a lot of people feel stuck in life, and there are some statistics out there. Gallup polls have done a lot of work on this, that, and I don't know what the number is right now. I have polls that go back 10 years, but something like, 80%. I don't think that number has come down a lot. 80% of people out there feel unfulfilled in their work and in their life.
Mm-hmm. And Marian, it's funny, as we just went through this last minute of this, one thing that you and I said that we were going to do is try to be as real as we can be, which of course also means working through our fears if we stumble upon something. So I'm going to put myself out there right from the very beginning, because as I was stumbling over my words and I turned it over to you, my thought was, oh my God, let's just start over. And we said that we weren't going to do that. And of course, when you're doing a live stream, um, you know, we're having this live conversation and it's going to be streamed live and everything, but we do have the ability to stop it if we wanted to and not let people see everything. And that was my thought, like, oh my God, this was horrible right from the beginning. And my mindset started going back. For people that do know me, I had a really severe speech disorder when I was a kid. And so that has stopped me. The fear of being heard, the fear of speaking has been a major issue in my life and a major limiting belief that, I have to be perfect every time that I speak for people to understand me. So this definitely was not planned, but I thought I would share that little bit. And as we do go through these different Monday sessions and conversations, um, we're just going to put ourselves out there and hope that maybe you could identify with us a little bit and maybe recognize a fear within you that you can become aware of and put a stop to and say, no, I'm not going to let that control me. I'm not going to let that determine my happiness. So there we go.
There we go.
There we go.
One thing that comes up for me is the word judgment. And I think a lot of people can relate to that. And that's something that I've worked on for a good 10 years. I grew up with a lot of judgment, and, I'm in a big family, grew up with 6 siblings, and, went from being a kindergarten teacher to somehow landing on Wall Street for 32 years, and then deciding to enter the personal development industry as a coach, as a transformational leader. And many steps along the way, I got the message, well, who do you think you are? Or I'm not worthy of that. I don't have anything valuable to really say that's different than anyone else. And what I've come back with is how appreciative some of my clients, my team and my other business have appreciated, the wisdom, the courage that I've come out with, so that they feel more empowered to do the work that they might be questioning and they're not doing because of the same limiting beliefs.
Yeah. You were talking about statistics before too, and it is a statistic that us ladies tend to do that much more than anyone else, with that kind of feeling about who the hell am I to talk about this, or so. Not that we truly belittle, a lot of people do belittle themselves. I know that I did, for many years. But yeah, and I don't know, it's a limiting belief when you start, but I also think that when you have that kind of an attitude, and I know we weren't planning on talking about this today, but when you have that kind of limiting belief and you think, who the hell am I to talk about this thing, this stuff and everything, that we're question our worthiness to discuss it. That's really an excuse not to move forward. And that's all fear based. And I know we're going to be talking a lot about fear based issues and everything as the weeks go on. But it was just a thought that I had just now that, yeah, we all do it. And women are really good at doing it, especially women of our age. I think the younger generation is more aware of, I don't know, they seem more aware, at least the youngsters that are around me, my nephews and their girls and everything. It's just, they seem to be a little bit more confident. So I don't know if it's a generational thing or not, but I do know an awful lot of people deal with it. And we're going to try to expose all of that, aren't we? Make us start thinking about it so we question ourselves and question ourselves in a good way, a way that we could grow, not a way to beat ourselves back down.
Right. Just knock those fears aside. The
Mhm.
younger generation, and children, we can go back, for when we were children, we didn't have any filters. We didn't have any judgment. They just barrel forward, whether it's those first steps that they take. Um, they don't have to be calculated. We're more calculating. We see social media and we see that perfect,
Yeah. Yeah.
life out there. And that's usually what's not behind the camera.
No, not at all.
There's, there's a lot more fear. Um, one, I do love quotes. And so probably on these sessions, we'll be sharing quotes. So I was prepared with one quote that I love that is so perfect for this conversation. And it comes from Marianne Williamson, who I love, and her Course in Miracles. This is from her book, A Return to Love, reflection on A Course in Miracles. And it talks about fears, and it's exactly what we're talking about right now. So if I can read that quote, I love how people have taken that in, and it's so appropriate to what we're talking about. And what Marianne Williamson says is, our deepest fear is not that we're inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we're powerful beyond measure. We don't give ourselves the credit for that, right? And so she says, it is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I? To be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, fabulous. Actually, who are you not to be? You are a child of God. Your playing small does not serve the world. We are all meant to shine as children do. We were born to make manifest the glory of God that is within us. It is not in just some of us, it is in everyone. And as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. As we are liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others.
That's beautiful. Do you know when she wrote that?
I don't know when that book came out, but it's been out for a while, and I've used that quote for years. It's in
It's
my
such
book.
it's so Marianne and I are both authors as well. We've been very blessed that we've had, the ability to write a book or two. And that's an experience in itself, isn't it? Because you really put your heart and soul onto paper when you do that. That's another whole process. But it strikes me, a couple of thoughts that I had as you were reading that and it made me ask, when did you write that? Because I find that saying that someone uses, whoever it is that when you're ready to learn something, the teacher will appear. And there's so much of the stuff that I have explored over, the last 4 or 5 years, and even just the last 4 or 5 months, that people have been talking about this for not just years, decades, in some cases, hundreds of years, depending on, the philosophy. It's like right now I'm currently learning Tai Chi, and some of the concepts that I'm really identifying with are new to me and new to a lot of people talking about consciousness and all of this stuff today, but it's been around for thousands of years, and so it really is just fascinating to me that, we could be looking at something and striving for an answer for something, and that it changes. It's like even some I often refer to them as teachings, like a lecture that I've listened to or something, and I get something out of it. That I can listen to something that I may have listened to 8 years ago, and I listen to it now with completely different ears. It just I didn't grasp back then what I grasp from it now, and so it kind of is circling me around to the fact that we are going to be talking about these different stages of consciousness and where you are in it. And I don't know, do we want to get into that today on what the 4 stages are and what we're going to be talking about? Or do you want to just keep on, discussing whatever comes to mind?
Why don't you introduce those 4 stages, because that will be the basis for a lot of the conversations that we have going forward.
Okay. So basically, just give you a little tiny bit of background here that I've always been interested in personal development since I was very young. And mostly a lot of that stemmed from that fact, again, that I had that terrible speech disorder as a child. And it affected me in so many different ways. And then a couple of different experiences through my life just kind of catapulted me into searching for answers. So I've been interested in personal development for years, but I never really equated that with spirituality until recently. And so, you know, the personal development stuff, you are aware that there's different levels of consciousness, but it also ties in directly with the four stages of spirituality. So I'm going to tell you what those four things are today. And then over the coming months and weeks, Marion and I will be talking about one stage at a time and how it does tie in with personal development. A lot of people think of spirituality of just being their belief in God and everything, but it's a very wide definition, and all of it is tied into consciousness. So, Marion, I'm going to just come back to you for a second. When you hear the word consciousness, what do you think of when you hear that? Do you have any associations with the term? Like, what comes to mind for you when you hear that particular word?
Well, a couple of different things. The first thing that came to mind is just being present in where you are.
In where you are.
Sometimes we're just caught up into the busyness of life that we don't really notice what we're actually doing. We're just busy. And if we can just stop and notice where we are, the quality of our life and the quality of what we want our lives to be can take on a much deeper meaning. That's what I think of when I think of consciousness.
And that's what I think of too when you're speaking of consciousness. And there's with these different levels. I want to start by saying, as I say them, you may instantly go, "Oh no, that's not me." And the reason for it is because the first level of consciousness, actually, the first stage of consciousness, is called victimhood or victim consciousness. And when I first heard that, I was like, no way, I'm nobody's victim. And I want to start by saying that's not the meaning of the word victim in this. It's not the sense that you're a victim. What it is how we talk to ourselves. So first I'm going to tell you the four stages, and then we'll briefly talk about victim consciousness, because that is where Marianne and I are going to be starting our Monday sessions, and probably spending a good 4 sessions on it and how it's all related to just different things in life. But the 4 stages, here we go. We have victim consciousness, we have the manifester consciousness, the channel consciousness, and the being consciousness. And can you say that 10 times fast? I'm getting tongue twisted again. But an easy way to look at it is that when you talk about a victim consciousness, basically you're thinking that things are done to you. And when you're doing a manifester consciousness, it's when you realize that you have control over the way you think and everything else. And so that's when things are phrased as things are being done by me. Now, the next 2 levels are a little bit harder to understand until you start getting the concepts of the first 2. So I think we're going to save those for a little bit later. But to sum it up, the first one is when things are done to me. That's when I'm allowing me to think that I have no control. So that's where the victim idea comes in. Things are being done to me. All right. The next one, the manifester consciousness, is when you realize that you have a way of making things happen. And a lot of people associate this with the learnings of the book, The Secret. Channel consciousness, I will tell you that it's when you feel like things are happening through you. And then the ultimate is being consciousness. And that is when you do things simply, things are flowing so easily for you that everything that you do is as you. It just becomes your natural way of being. And one thing that's important for you to know is that all 4 of these, they're not stages that you go through stage 1, you go through stage 2, 3, and 4. It's not a linear, thing. It's more like it's just the flow of life. So I may personally think that many parts of my life, either manifesting or channeling, and some of it even being, but I could still be in victim mode on a particular area of my life. So it's not linear. It's like the flow of life. Things just aren't linear. We may think that they are, but they're not. The energy is always constantly flowing and moving and um, happening all at once. So, Marian, I don't know.
And
Did I?
Cheryl, where did you learn this practice? There are so many different spiritual practices, consciousness practices, learnings. Where did this come from for
You know,
you?
it's funny because the actual four stages, I recently just discovered that there were words for it, that there were labels for it, and I hate that word label, but that it had a name to it. But I was in a course with Michael Beckwith, and Michael Beckwith is actually one of the original people that were in The Secret that came out many years ago. And the interesting thing is that a lot of the stuff that he was talking about, I've been aware of for very, very many years. And I've been doing a lot of these different things over the years. And even on this level of the channel consciousness that he talks about, where things are through me, I didn't realize in certain areas of my life, I've been doing that for a good couple of years at the very least. I never knew it had a name to it. And that's why I think it's so fascinating, because you could be living this behavior, this being, and not even realize it. But what is important, even if we don't like the term victim consciousness, you can change that word, you could adapt it. But the whole thing about victim consciousness that's important to know is the fact that you think things are being done to you. And so you have this belief that you don't have any control over life. It's like, my boss is so rotten to me. No wonder why I can't get ahead in my career. Um, my boyfriend knocks me down every other day with his words, and so no wonder why I can't get ahead. The universe is against me. Um, you know, the way I was born with my astrological chart, it's amazing how many people use astrology and numerology. And I have a whole thing on that I want to say at some point, but that they use the negative aspects in their charts to blame life on who they are and where they stand and everything. And I'm just going to say right from the beginning, get over it, because everybody has a choice. And so there may be energies around you that you're born under, but they're only energies, and they're there for you to understand what's going on if you choose to. And so you can make different decisions. So my big thing, Marian, as we go through this, I just realized is that if I can get one point across to anybody, just a single person, it will make me so happy. And that is that no matter what happens to you in life, the good, the fantastic, the bad, the ugly, you do always have a choice, because you have a choice on how you're going to react to that situation. You get to choose every moment of every day how you react to your own feelings, your own situation. If somebody hits you over the head with a hammer, you had no control over that, but you do get to choose how you react to that behavior. So for me, that would be the one thing that would make me super happy, is if people realize that one thing. And for me personally, when I started realizing that I can always choose how I react to something, that's when my life started turning around.
And if I could add to that, I always think of that universal symbol, the yin and yang,
Yeah.
and that infinity symbol. And we talk about fear and love, and the good and the bad, whatever those contrasts are. One does not exist without the other.
You
And
need both sides.
you can choose to stay in that negative side, and again, not to label good or bad, but whatever state that is, whether it's a limiting belief or a fear or whatever. And we have the tools we have so many tools, and I think Cheryl and I are going to share a lot of how we've learned to reverse things when we've been in that state. Another way you can think about it is a state of contraction, right? If you even say the word contraction, what do you feel your body do? And when you feel about expansion, you just automatically feel more open, that you have more choices, that you can shift that thinking,
Yeah.
and we
You,
can do that.
you just gave me, again, a whole bunch of stuff just came to mind. One of them is, Marion didn't know I was going to tell you guys this, but she actually has a happy line, and it's merchandising in the sense that it's t-shirts and sweatshirts that have a simple word on it that says happy. And I got to tell you, when I helped Marion design them, and when I did that, I was just like, I just look at the word happy and I get a smile on my face. And that brings to mind another thing that so many times during the day, when you're feeling heavy about something, and Marion, maybe we can make a point of doing this, is always giving a little tool every single session that is so simple to do, that can make a difference. And so this is the one that popped into my head as you were talking. A lot of times I get so concentrated in my work that I'm like this, and I'm just concentrating so much and things start feeling really, really heavy. And I hear the voice of this other teacher that I have that taught me a lot about energy. And he always says, just smile a little bit. And so I just turn up the little corners of my mouth a little bit and I just smile, because when I hear the word smile, I smile and it lightens you. And so I try to do that whenever I catch myself feeling heavy. And I don't know how else to explain it, but when I get so into my work, sometimes I feel heavy, not grounded. Grounded is good, but heavy, like not in a good way. So I smile and it lifts me up, and so I don't know. Do you have little tricks that you do throughout the day without even thinking?
Again, just that energy shift. And so I go with a smile. I find myself in the car passing people, and you can see that they're growling about something, or on their phones or whatever. I consciously smile. I think that comes with my whole, what's become my branding is stepping into happy. So you can make those little shifts. And I think the word happy, it's why I wear the word happy on me sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And and my son, just God bless him, came up with the tagline that we used for the merchandising. How does it go? Even a word
Your word can make a difference.
can make a difference and change your day. A simple word.
Yeah.
So I choose happy.
Yeah, I choose happy too. And I think we're coming up on our 30 minutes. It just feels like we have been chatting for a while. I don't know. Shall we check a clock?
No, let's not check the clock. That's a good place to end with a tip.
Okay. All right. So, yeah. Okay. So yeah, let's not check a clock. But I know that we want to keep these to around 30 minutes anyway, just so we don't overwhelm anybody with the length of them. But I love that idea. So that's a note to you and me, that let's make sure that we end with like one little tiny baby step that somebody could use. So if you're listening to this, your baby step for today is to just try to be a little bit more conscious of your actions throughout the day. And whenever you feel a frown that you're aware of, just flip it and just try to put a little tiny smile on your face. And it probably, as a matter of fact, no, not probably, I know it'll make a difference. So, Marion, any closing remarks?
That's a perfect end. Just add a little happy to your day.
Okay.
Thought for the next sessions, which I'm sure we'll be incorporating a lot, is drop into gratitude and say thank you for noticing that moment and knowing that we can shift that around.
Yes. Perfect. And as always, guys, if you have any comments for us or any suggestions on how we could make this better for you, Marion and I are completely open to your suggestions. So wherever this may be living, just write your comments below and and we'll take a look at them and try to give you guys what you need. All right. So, Marion, I love you, and we'll see you next time.
Love you too. Bye for now.
Bye bye.